These housing vouchers, we anticipated 100 or more people would be matched to that voucher. And as you'll learn today, that match is just the beginning. The match begins a frenetic period for our staff of paperwork, apartment searches, leasing, and finally moving. It's a heavy lift for staff. It's very stressful for clients. And it's an exciting time for our organization because it's just an unprecedented, as I said earlier, housing opportunity. Throughout the year, we've celebrated every dollar that you've sent our way to help support this work. And we've celebrated every person who's been housed with the help of a voucher and the support our staff provided. In our offices here at the admin office, we have a bell that our staff rings every time a client is housed. And when the bell rings, we literally leave our desks and come celebrate together, learning about the person whose homelessness ended that day. At the outset, we calculated that our cost per client to do the work of using these vouchers in South Orange County would be about $700,000 or $7,000 per client. And we asked you to help us by contributing what you could to help us reach that goal. We asked and you responded. And I want to now introduce a short video with some of those results. It's just a minute to get that up.
Thanks to your investments, we've reached our goal to raise $700,000 to support 100 individuals in moving out of homelessness and into housing.
As of today, our staff has successfully helped more than 50 individuals find their forever home, and we're working with another 50 who have vouchers in hand as they search for a willing landlord and an affordable unit.
Here at Friendship Shelter, we know that homelessness is a community problem that affects every one of us and requires community solutions. When we work together to solve homelessness, we all benefit. Today, all of Friendship Shelter's programs are focused on one thing: an actionable plan for housing. That's backed up by a well-trained staff and resources from people like you so that we can act on that housing plan as fast as possible.
And the good news is our approach is working. In South Orange County, Friendship Shelter's service area, homelessness dropped 23% in the recent regional point-in-time count. And Laguna Beach, where Friendship Shelter's 2 shelters and its outreach program operate, street homelessness dropped a whopping 60%.
But we're not done yet. Hundreds more remain on our streets. We believe none of us is home until all of us are home. We invite you to stay with us as we continue ending homelessness for everyone in South Orange County, one person at a time.
I'm here to tell you that we have reached our goal and exceeded it. As of today, we have raised $713,601 to support this effort. I think we have some staff bell ringers who are going to help us celebrate that. Yay. Thanks, bell ringers. I'm now going to turn it over to Wendy Aird, our board president, to introduce the rest of our program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy Aird, and as Dawn said, I currently have the privilege of serving as board president for Friendship Shelter. And you're going to hear a little bit more about some additional programs here shortly, but for just one moment, I'd like to take time out to say thank you. First, I'd like to thank all of the donors, for without your generosity, we would never have been able to achieve those audacious goals that we set for ourselves late last year and actually exceed them. Secondly, I'd like to thank the community. This community has been with us for over 30 years and has watched us grow from a relatively small entity here in Laguna Beach to a very significant entity that now services the whole of South Orange County. And also, I'd like to take a big thanks for our superstars. This would be the staff at Friendship Shelter. These incredible individuals that come to serve each and every day with dedication, with humility, with professionalism and focus to make sure that all of our programs are successfully achieved, just like the Next 100. And tonight, I'd like to also take a moment to shout out a couple of individuals that with their leadership, made this program particularly successful. One is Megan Tambio, who runs our marketing efforts here at Friendship Shelter, as well as Rick Scott, our superstar COO, who's here every single day supporting all efforts, but in particular, the Next 100, you brought it to reality. So thank you, one and all. Now I'd like to turn it to an additional superstar, an incredible superstar. With us today is Friendship Shelter's Director of Services, Mia Ferreira. Mia oversees all direct service activities and staff and has been with Friendship Shelter for over 8 years. She holds a master's degree in public health, a master's in social work, and is a licensed clinical social worker. Mia has 2 decades of experience establishing and managing homeless programs in Hawaii, the San Francisco area, and Orange County. Mia participates in countrywide continuum of care service leadership and is an adjunct professor in the Human Services Department of Saddleback College. And that's a lot, but she's here to talk about more that she brings to this organization. So Mia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Welcome to everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you tonight. I get the wonderful task of telling you what we do with all those dollars that got raised. And really important, a lot of times people ask, and we're hoping to shed some light on the process so that you understand the complexity of what we've been doing and the resources that have come in. A little history: before June of 2021, every month we would have vouchers come through, and the programs that we served, our outreach program and our shelter program where we served our clients, those vouchers that would come through would be 1 to 2 every month, a handful. And then COVID came, and this wonderful resource of these emergency housing vouchers came in, and 1,000 new vouchers came in as a result of these dollars, and starting in June of 2021. And so that was the push to start this campaign. It was the sort of ramp up for all of us in all of our programs to start getting our clients ready to be eligible for those. So I thought I'd start with, what is a voucher? You know, a voucher, Dawn mentioned earlier, is an ongoing rent subsidy. It is a federal subsidy that gets managed by our local county housing authority. Effectively, it allows a client to pay 1/3 of their income. Many of our clients that we serve are low income and they can't afford to rent their own units. So this, as she said, golden ticket allows them, if they only make $800, they only pay 1/3 of their income for their rent so that they can manage and stay in housing. The other piece of this is that, you know, with vouchers, there are restrictions. As you can imagine, we live in South Orange County. It's very expensive. So there are caps on what rent could be paid with a voucher. So that limits some of what we're able to do. And that's been a big challenge, especially in South Orange County, because of the high cost of living. So you understand what a voucher is. So how does one qualify to be matched for a voucher? Well, our system participates in what's called coordinated entry. Coordinated entry is a HUD mandated process. Basically, it's a queue for qualified individuals to access these resources that come from the government. And in order to get into that coordinated entry queue, our navigators and the people who work in our outreach and shelter programs have to get all kinds of qualifying documents for their clients. So we have to document their homelessness. It's not enough for us to say they're homeless. We actually have to document it. We document their disabling conditions, and we have to do a whole system of documenting that in order to get our clients even eligible to be matched for one of those vouchers. Once someone is matched to a voucher, then the real application process starts. So that doesn't mean they're going to get the voucher. All it means is they're matched and to be considered for one. Again, our teams of navigators take the client and get this 21-page application, which is, if any of you have ever applied for a student loan or for a home loan, for example, it's just as stressful. It's a very intensive, it requires answering a lot of personal questions. It requires a lot of eligibility documentation. There's 2 full pages of eligibility documentation that clients have to provide, things like birth certificates, marriage or divorce certificates if they indicate that, all kinds of bank statements. Again, all of this, which is more challenging for our folks, many of us who live our days and have a file cabinet with all of our important documents. Our folks tend to sometimes lose those documents or don't even know, how to get their birth certificate. We've had challenges with that. So once they're matched, we help them. We walk through often more than one sitting, because of the nature of who we serve, people with disabilities. It's really hard for them to sit through these really intensive conversations. And, any of you who've done one of those kind of loan applications know the stress related to it. So with a lot of grace and dignity, we go with very client-centered. We go with the client through that process. We help them get all those documents they need. We submit it, and then they are determined whether they're eligible or not. They get issued a voucher. So all of the work has happened, and now we're finally to issuing a voucher. Once a voucher is issued, it has an expiration date. So meaning they have, it starts with 120 days to find a place. And so that's kind of when the clock starts ticking. At that point, our navigation team activates our location team. So we have a whole system whereby more paperwork for the client. We have to do a background check. We have to get them ready. We have to find out where they want to live, what kind of housing they need and prefer. So we work with our own housing location team for them to understand what their needs are, what their background is, so that they can start that housing search process. Our navigators still do take them to appointments, fill out applications, go look at units, but the housing search has started. And if we've been unable to locate a unit within that time frame, then we have to apply for an extension, which we have to justify why we're applying for an extension. So it's not like they take our word for it. Again, we do a lot of documentation of the places that we've looked, the reasons why we've been able to locate units, and then we're at the mercy of the housing authority to say yes or no, you may get an extension. And so our team is constantly working on and keeping track of where people are in those processes. So once a unit is found, and we've done a really good job of finding units for people, once a unit is found, we also engage our location team as well as our permanent housing team. Many of these clients who have these vouchers need and are required ongoing sustainability. Many of them have disabling conditions. The way that these vouchers were in coordinated entry were matched was based on vulnerability. And so what we found is that the people that were matched were the most vulnerable in our community. So many of those folks need ongoing supportive services. So we're working on linking them for a warm handoff to their new stabilization coordinator with our permanent housing team, as well as working with the housing location team to pay for move-in costs. Things like even getting to lease up, paying landlord incentives, paying for deposits, renters insurance, application fees. Our team pays for that, coordinates all that. Once they move in, we also, for many people, do a move-in bundle, because it's not very cool to move into an empty apartment, right? So we know that people have things like they need a bed and they need dishes and they need all of those things. So again, we work in concert with our different teams to make sure that people have what they need in their homes, just like you and I would want what we need in our brand new home. So we coordinate that move-in bundle. They get connected to their stability coordinator. And then we sort of phase out their navigator. And now they have a stability coordinator who will do an assessment, find out what goals and needs that client has, continue to see them, and we'll see them weekly for the first 3 months that they're in housing to make sure that they're stable, setting individual client goals, and providing ongoing assistance as needed. So that's kind of from the very beginning to when somebody moves in. Lots of barriers along the way, as you can imagine, even getting all those eligibility documents, the complex paperwork really makes it hard for people, especially people who are paranoid and don't want to sign 25 pages of really personal information. There's a real lack of available units. I'm going to say it again. There's a real lack of available units. Many of our clients have poor history. They have a criminal history. They have eviction histories. All of these things make it very challenging for our team to convince landlords to take them. We have an awesome team. They really do a great job, but we need more private landlords who are willing to take a chance on our clients who have those histories. Lack of adequate income. Many of our clients don't have a lot of income, as I mentioned. Some of them don't even have a disability income yet, and we're working on getting that for them. So they live off of the general relief, which is $350 a month. So imagine trying to live off of $350 a month. Clients, a lot of our people that we serve in our Friendship Shelter South Orange County programs want to remain in South Orange County, right? And we believe in client self-determination. So many of them prefer to be in South County. That makes it even more challenging because of the lack of available units. The limited extensions has been a real issue for us. And sort of the complexity of the paperwork. Some clients hit a wall with it and say, I don't want to sign those paperwork. I don't want to do that. I don't want to, go down that route. And so we've had people who've opted out of some vouchers, which it was really hard for us to take, but because of the complex level, oftentimes we talk about our housing first approach. Vouchers feel like a paperwork first approach, just so you understand. We take a housing first approach, but vouchers really do require on the front end a lot of bureaucracy that we're doing a really good job of kind of navigating and swimming through with our clients, because these resources are so important because of the lack of new permanent supportive housing that we've had as well. So I think all of that, to be said is, kind of how we've been doing, what we've been doing with the money that you've been giving for our clients. I think it's best told in a story. So if you could please show the picture of Rick for me, that would be great. So when I first started working at Friendship Shelter in 2014, there was a man named Rock and Roll Rick, everyone called him. And if you ever walk down the beach in Laguna in the past, 6 years, 7 years, you may have run into Rock and Roll Rick playing his guitar down at the beach. He's played at some local venues. One of the things that was really wonderful interesting about Rick is, he's had some health challenges. When the ASL was doing some transition into an enrollment program, we had invited Rick, who was a local, to come stay and be part of that. And, he said to me, I can't sleep in a room with all those people. I can't do it. He's like, first of all, I'm too big. I don't want to get up and down off of that cot. And secondly, I can't be in a room with all those people. It's too much. And we understand that, mass shelter is not for everyone. So Rick decided he camped and stayed outside for many, many years. We got him into coordinated entry. Our outreach team worked with him. We got him into coordinated entry back in 2018. And from 2018 to 2022, he wasn't even at the top of the list to get one of those vouchers. So when the EHVs came through and we were actually taking 100+ people in South Orange County, giving them vouchers, Rick's name finally came up. And so Rick's been homeless for, more than 8 years. He's 62 years old, and he just recently last month moved into his own apartment in Laguna Woods. Just to see his smile, to see, the way that he, he didn't want to be part of the shelter environment, but for him, dignity was being on his own. And this, he said, thank you guys so much. You didn't give up on me. For a long time, he denied some of the services that we thought he should take, but we didn't give up on him. And thanks to your support and thanks to the funding, we were able to help pay for his moving costs, furnish his unit, get him all ready. So Rock and Roll Rick, you may see him down at the beach. I hope he still goes down to the beach and plays his music, but he has a place to go every night now. And that's a result of the work that you guys did. So I really, really appreciate that. I also want to talk a little bit about who we served over this time. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So, in this last year, so when the vouchers first were issued starting in June, we thought that this would go for a year. They've actually given us an extension for 6 months because of the lease-up rates across the county have been very low. So they've given us more time. So to date, we've actually have 55 people who have been housed with vouchers. That's permanently ending their homelessness. We currently have 52 people who are with a voucher, either with a voucher in hand or a match to a voucher in that process I was telling you about, who are working with staff, and we anticipate being able to house them very soon. So who are the people that we're housing? You know, if we take a look at some of the demographics of the folks that we serve, we are serving an older population. 67% are over 45. A whopping 95% have a disabling condition, and 3/4 of them experience chronic homelessness. And again, one of the things that has been so great about this influx of vouchers is there's a certain category of vouchers called move-on vouchers that enable us to open up permanent supportive housing units. So some of our clients who've been in permanent supportive housing units for a long time and have stabilized have been offered vouchers, and those vouchers allow us to open up permanent supportive housing units for people who maybe a voucher wouldn't be appropriate. And so we're really excited. We've had several people who are doing, those are called move-on vouchers, several people who are participating in the move-on voucher. So that's why 100% are not chronically homeless. The other 25% are people who are actually currently housed right now and who are going to be moving into their very own apartments and opening up those PSH units for us. So as far as the navigation services, our clients, again, the navigators, the locators, we work really hard at finding units for people, but sometimes clients do find units for themselves. So 98% of the housed clients found their apartment through our navigation services. A couple of clients have found their own units, which was great. As far as where we've been able to find units, 55% have leased up in South Orange County. 29% in Central and 16% in North. As I mentioned earlier, finding units that fit the affordability standards of the Housing Authority is very challenging, but we're really excited. And we've been able to meet the needs of many clients who might want to move to Central Orange County. Not everybody wants to stay in South Orange County. So that's kind of who we're serving. I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing to make it possible for us to continue to house people. We've had to get creative in this time. My staff has gotten very educated and complex and become experts in these very complex paperwork systems. And we're really thankful for the support of our community to continue to do this work. Turn it over to you, Dawn.
Unmute myself. Sorry about that. So thank you, Mia. As you can see, this is an incredibly complicated and difficult work that our staff are doing, but we're doing it with great joy because we're seeing the results. And I just want to share for a moment that the success in this voucher program is part of a larger success that is building here in South Orange County because of the confidence that you've placed in us and provided fuel for as we go through a period of organizational growth and learning. I want to take just a moment to tell you about how this fits into our organization and its vision. So several years ago, as some of you know, we entered a period of study and discernment about our work, and we came to realize that the carefully curated menu of services within our programs had unintentionally created barriers that kept some of the most vulnerable people experiencing homelessness away from our care. And so we listened and we learned and we pivoted to ensure that our programs were more open to all and are all focused on the one goal of ending homelessness through housing. So we ensured that all shelter and outreach staff were focused on working with clients and wherever the client was to create an actionable housing plan and to work on that plan. And we made sure that our housing staff had the resources they needed to provide those essential ongoing supportive services once clients were housed, to help them build from that base of stability and achieve a better quality of life and lasting well-being. And I can tell you that it's working. As we said earlier in the video, last month, Orange County announced its point in time count. That count found a 23% drop in homelessness overall in South Orange County. And in Laguna Beach, where we focus our shelter and outreach work, a 60% drop in street homelessness. We're very proud of those numbers. We believe those numbers. They line up with other data that we've been keeping and tell us that our work is working. Our approach is working, and your support, your investment in our work is making a difference. So that is the end of our formal program. And I want to open the floor up to questions. You can raise your hand if you know how to do that. You can just unmute yourself and ask us. We have Mia here. We have Rick Scott, our COO, and Annalisa Andrus, our Director of Program Development and Compliance. So we have some real experts in the room. If anything about this presentation has made you think, what about this? What about that? We'd love to hear from you now. So I'll just open it up. Ask your question, and we'll find, if you don't know who to ask it, we'll find the right person to answer it.
This is Doug. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doug.
Okay. Questions about permanent supportive housing. The federal program that has been extended, are these vouchers just straight Section 8 vouchers, or are they permanent supportive housing?
That's a good question. They permanent supportive housing requires that support be in place. I believe these vouchers require 3 months of support. Is that correct, Mia?
There's not a requirement. Clients can decline it. Permanent supportive housing is a different sort of bucket of money from the federal government. These vouchers are, they don't have the same federal guidelines, the same expectations for that sort of supportive services. We are providing that, and there is this push in our community to make sure, because we are housing, it's almost as if, due to the lack of PSH units, that these vouchers are the resource that are going to people who would otherwise qualify for PSH, but if they're not necessarily the same thing. Annalisa, do you want to say something?
The emergency housing vouchers too are a specific bucket of vouchers that were made available through the Biden administration in the COVID response. So they are very much the same as traditional Section 8, but they're their own type of voucher.
So what we're doing to back that up is employing other resources. Your support has been really key to that. And then going forward, we are part of a coalition of organizations called Housing for Health Orange County. And we are providers of services through CalAIM, which is a new healthcare resource providing supportive services to people in their housing. And so some of the people that we're placing with EHVs qualify for that supportive services resource. And we're doing everything we can to employ and meld these different funding sources so that we can stay with people as long as they need the support to stay stable. What that creates is a position like Annalisa has of our Director of Compliance, because when you layer resources, you create compliance, just additional compliance per client, per program, and a lot for us to keep track of. So when Mia talks about pages and pages of paperwork for the client, there's also pages and pages of paperwork for the organizations that are doing that work. And we are certainly feeling the burden of that, for lack of a better word, and also the costs of that.
Another question while we're waiting for the phone call. Your initial statistics said that there was $700,000 raised and that 50 clients have been served. Doing the math on that, that's $14,000 per client. Is there a way to say how that 700 grand was spent? Was it spent entirely on facilitating the 50 clients moving into housing, or were there other services that were also funded by that?
Doug, we have 55 currently in housing and another 52 with vouchers. that we are working actively with. So we expect to spend the entire 700,000 as planned on housing at least 100 people. So not all of it's been spent. Doug is our treasurer of our board, so he's curious about that. But we are spending this money as we go on all of these activities Mia mentioned. So these 52 that are walking around with vouchers, we're already spending money on navigating them and helping them through that paperwork, that myriad of paperwork.
I see
Does that
Thomas.
answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Tom, you had a
Yeah, the question that I have, I know Mia mentioned that there's a location group, but really how does the location group actually find units? I mean, do they go door to door? Do they look through real estate section? I'm just curious because that appears to be part of the bottleneck in getting vouchers to be utilized. And I'm curious what's done to find the units.
So I'd say all of
I'd
those
like to-
things you've mentioned are true. Really about holding relationships with apartment, management companies and real estate companies and things like that. So it's really about sharing a story as well, right? I mean, we are doing things like signing bonuses and that kind of thing, but we're, the story of guaranteeing rent to an individual, to a landlord is a good sell, and a relationship with Friendship Shelter that we're going to continue to keep that relationship. And if you have any issues or concerns, you'd be able to come to us for that support. It also, if a client was to leave, that we're going to fill it right back up. So it's a good benefit to a landlord that we're there, that they're not going to have to worry about advertising and redoing the unit. We're just going to keep that full at all times. And then I think also that, probably the most important thing, that we get them to be a part of ending homelessness together. They're in partnership with us. So I think it's really about the narrative and that piece as well.
I just add to that it's also about that ongoing relationship with the landlord and what we are finding and learning. I just signed rent checks a few days ago, and I'm signing 5 and 6 rent checks to the same landlord. And I know those landlords are also willing now to accept the vouchers, where they'll get that subsidy directly from the housing authority. But it's the same kinds of landlords and people, and our reputation, really, our ability to do what we say we're going to do and follow through.
And those vouchers weren't all issued in June, just so you understand. They did, they have been issued sort of across the year. And so we, like Don mentioned, or on our slide, there's 54 or so. Half of those are actually in the process of getting the voucher still. So they don't even have a voucher in hand, which was great. Imagine 1,000 people with vouchers in Orange County all looking for units at once. Would have made it very challenging. So there is a bit of phasing that has happened over this last year in order to not create as much of a bottleneck.
I'll also just say about that bottleneck is being felt nationally. It's especially hard in South Orange County or in Southern California, but other communities are also experiencing that bottleneck, and that's why the federal government extended these vouchers to the lease update was June 30th. We thought we'd be sitting today, and when these were first issued, we thought today would be the last day anyone could move into an apartment using these vouchers. The federal government moved that date to December 31st. So now we have 6 extra months, and they did that because it's been a national issue to lease up these units. All right, well, I'm going to then close us out. Wendy, if you could wrap us up. I thank you all for being here. We are so fortunate to have you in our corner, and we are fortunate to have a board leader like Wendy, who's so encouraging of this work, and all of our board members who are with us today. Wendy, take it away.
Thanks, Dawn. And I am encouraging about this work because I see the successes, and hopefully everybody on the phone is seeing the same level of success for this program as we strive for each and every program. And that's why we still will need your support, because the work is not done. You can see everywhere that the issue of homelessness is growing. One of the things we we are proud of is that our programs work, and we're proving it. We're proving it through the numbers, and we're proving it through finding people their permanent homes, just one person at a time. So thank you again for all of that, and we appreciate the support, and we'll keep you up to date. And if you in fact like to learn a little bit more, we'd like to put a little save the date on the calendar. That would be November 1st. We will be having our first intersections lunch. And it is going to be, I think, an exciting one. It's an opportunity for individual contributors, donors, supporters of Friendship Shelter to combine with the business community and really find ways that maybe we can create more synergies and more opportunities. And we have a really wonderful speaker that is planned. And I think you'll be extremely excited to hear from this individual, as well as be surprised in many ways with the story he's going to tell. So if that's a little bit of a tickler, put the save the date out there. We'll get back to you with more information. But in the meantime, once again, thank you for everything that you've done for us, certainly in this Next 100 campaign, but over the years. And until next time, I think that's a wrap.